Well, hello to session one of Getting to Know Bob Berg. And we're going to talk today about a topic that a lot of MSPs really don't like to talk about: sales. They struggle with it. And Peter, I know that you've worked your way through that and become successful in leading Greystone first, but now leading New Charter as the CEO. I'm sure you've seen this over and over in the MSP space, that sales is just not something people really like.
Yeah.
How do we address that in this industry? Because selling's kind of an important thing.
It's extremely important. And you talk to MSPs and you say, what do you need help with? And the first thing they say is sales. But the thing that I love about sales in the MSP industry is that, to me, that's sales at its most pure. And what I mean by that is that, to me, sales is influencing someone in the direction that they need to go, not convincing them to do something that they shouldn't. And so when we look at it that way, sales, a lot of the traditional sales tactics don't work in the MSP space, because the services are something that, we're embedding ourselves in companies. We're embedding ourselves in somebody else's organizational chart. And so we're an alternative to hiring people. And so it's more like a job interview, than it is a sales process or a traditional sales process in the MSP space. And the thing that I love about that is that it really just brings the influence piece to the forefront and the trust piece to the forefront, that they have to trust the people that they're working with. And so when we've looked at sales and we see people who are owner-led sales, you have a company who's built on an owner being able to communicate what they do and build trust, in what they do. And then they say, well, let me just hire a really, really, skilled sales rep. I just need to find that sales rep, and then I cannot do this part anymore. The reality is you have to embed that whole influence, sphere in your organization, not just yourself. So it's not about just finding someone who can sell as good or better than you, as a founder or an owner. It's about how to create influence with your organization and how to lead others to create influence. And so it's really an influence. It's a cascading influence chain, in a lot of that. And as soon as that influence or trust gets broken, or as soon as the trust gets broken, the influence isn't there. And so it's a harder sale in some regards, but to me, that's what sales absolutely should be, is just influencing people to do the things that they need to be doing, and educating them, in that process is such a huge part of that influence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Bob, you've been around the MSP world for the last 10 or so years, working with the IT Nation and HTG. You've seen and had lots of conversations with folks in our space. What is selling really? At the end of the day, what is that process?
Yeah, and that's such a great question, because it's really saying, what's the premise? What is this really all about? And I think Peter, summarized it beautifully. And I want to pick up on a few things he said as well. First, it's not just the MSP space. It's many people who are professionals. I work with a lot of it, whether it's accountants, lawyers, people who are great I call them technologists. Okay. They know what they do, they are great at what they do, and they love what they do. And yet so many of them are so resistant to the word sales or selling. And if you've ever heard someone say, well, Arlin or Peter, I don't like selling. I don't like sales. Here's my feeling. It's not that they don't like selling. It's that they don't like what they think selling is. Because if you think, and again, this is sort of picking up on what Peter said earlier, if you think selling is about trying to convince someone to buy something they don't want or need, well, and by the way, that's not selling. That's called being a con artist. Okay. But if you think that's what selling is, of course you're not going to like it, because you're a person of high values. You would not want to do something like that. Fortunately, that's not sales. Okay. By definition, selling is simply discovering what the other person does need, does want, does desire, and helping them to get it. And I love what Peter said. It's influencing them to make the decision that is in their best interest. Now, it's interesting. The old English root of the word sell was selan, which meant to give. So when you're selling, you're literally giving. Now, someone might say, well, okay, Bob, that's clever and everything, but, isn't that just semantics? When you're selling, what are you really giving? Well, let's say you're in a sales conversation with a prospect, okay? You are in the selling process. So what are you giving? I suggest you're giving that person time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and ultimately exquisite value. So when we look at sales or look at selling from that premise, now we see that selling is not some necessary evil that you must do to be in business. It's the most wonderful, righteous, fantastic thing you can do. Once you understand this, now you can learn, the how-tos of selling that really help, in the process. But it's really understanding nothing more than that, as you've heard me say for years, Arlen, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And when you look at selling from this premise that it's all about them, it's all about adding value to their life, it's all about their life being better just because you are part of it. Now you can approach selling from a fantastic and productive and very profitable way.
So it really is a mindset thing in many ways, and how we view that entire relationship. And Peter, as you talk to MSPs, how do you convince them that owner-led sales is not a plague that they have to endure? It's really the opportunity to drive their company forward.
Yeah. Business people love providing value. They absolutely love, I love that, exquisite value. The business leaders, that's not foreign to them and that's not offensive to them. And so when you frame it as you have knowledge and experience that will benefit people in this market, and that is not just, something that you should be okay with, it's actually your responsibility as a business person is to convey that, to deliver that value. And some of that value, Bob, what you said is in the process, and that's the go-giver mindset, in this is, I'm not going to hold back. I'm definitely going to make sure that I get what I need for the value of what I'm delivering in the long run. But to demonstrate that in the process, we talk often in the sales process about when we can go to a prospect and explain to them why they're experiencing the pain that they are, and unpack and dissect that, and then show them this is why this is happening, and now here's the solution. They feel so much more empowered to make a decision, and they're going to be more inclined to make that decision in our direction, but they're just going to be more educated in making that decision overall. And so that's where the value and the benefit, meet pretty specifically. But if you go in with the mindset of I'm only doing this in order to get that, then it doesn't come across authentically because it's not authentic. And that's one of the things that I love, helping MSP, leaders, and not just owners, but then the next level down who really can, be involved in a lot of those sales things and sales teams and all that, to say, hey, we're a team in this. It doesn't, we can all operate this way and deliver value and learn to deliver value. And it becomes a very natural thing, not something that, is just a trained process.
Right on.
Well, thank you so much, Bob, for sharing that insight with us. I always reminded my team that nothing happens till you sell something. And so sales is not an optional part of running a successful business. And we are going to talk in our next session, Bob, about how people actually make that decision, like Peter talked about. We have to guide them to understanding what that decision is and help them work through it. Thank you both for being with us, and we'll talk to you all again soon.